Hi, I'm Meg. Welcome to plantfitmeg. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I put out my last video, so I thought with my first video back to the channel, I should explain where I've been, what's been going on, what happened with Accountable April, and how things have been going. As you can tell by the title of this video and the thumbnail, I failed. I failed indeed. And that is okay. And I want to talk about it to normalize it. This video is going to be a chatty little video where I just share a little life update, how I failed and what happened and what I'm doing about it now. And I have my cup of tea here with me. I have my little squishmallow buddy here. And I just want it to be a chat where I'm talking to you as I would a friend and just share my experience in the hopes that it is helpful to you. I also want to mention that I will be back to usual content right away after this video. So if you aren't into this kind of content, but you do enjoy my recipes or my healthy lifestyle tips or weight loss content or anything like that, not to worry, we're getting right back to that in the next video. My next video coming up is going to be a haul, and then I will have other plant-based and healthy lifestyle tips videos coming at you soon. So stay tuned for that. So in the month of March, I had big plans for what I like to call Accountable April, where I put out a little challenge to the community for us to come together and pick a habit and work on it for the month of April. And I've been doing that for the past few years with different targets and different kind of goals over the years. But this time around, I really wanted to work on chin-ups and pull-ups and work on push-ups and just strengthening my upper body in general so that I can get my first chin-up or pull-up this year, because that was one of my goals that I set for 2023. And I thought this is totally reasonable. I'll jump on my pull-up bar once a day. I'll work on my chin-ups and my pull-ups. I will do scap pulls. I will do negatives. I'll do 50 push-ups a day, and that'll be great. That's a great habit to get into for the month of April, which would have been great, but I made a few missteps in the planning and also in the execution in that first week. I didn't take into account my regular workouts on top of those activities. I didn't really consider the impact that it might have on my body to be also doing my gym workouts, my strength training, my 2 dance classes a week, and that it might be too much. I also think it was a reasonable plan, and it might have gone a lot more smoothly if I didn't fall into the trap of more is better. So in that first week, even though my goal was to do 50 push-ups a day and my goal was to jump on the push-up bar once a day, I was often jumping up on the pull-up bar twice a day or 3 times a day. I was doing more than 50 push-ups in a day. In my upper body workouts, I was doing pull-ups at the gym as well as at home. And so I didn't notice an acute injury. It's not like I did an action and then had an automatic, oh, my shoulder's injured, like I did something. I was making dinner one night, oddly enough, and noticed my shoulder was sore. So that gave me pause. I iced it. I sort of rested for a day or two, and I left it for a little bit. I tried to continue to do my activities as I could, as long as they weren't painful. And then I also figured, oh, well, if my shoulder is injured, I can still do leg workouts. I can still go to the gym and rock those out. So I was continuing to do that. And my shoulder was not improving. It was sort of getting worse. So I thought, okay, I'll go to physio. Thankfully, it's not a major injury. It's nothing too concerning in the grand scheme of things. But I was really, really frustrated because I felt like I sort of put myself in this position by overdoing it. And then I can't do the workouts that I really want to do and that I really love doing. My favorite things to do lately have been upper body workouts, have been challenging myself in those ways, in throwing myself into handstands and practicing that as well. So those are just things that aren't accessible to me right now, which was extremely frustrating. And it seemed like anytime I did any sort of activity, my shoulder would feel worse. And so I got a little bit freaked out and I ended up not exercising my upper body very much at all because I was afraid of making it worse and I was afraid of being in pain. And I think rest is good, but at the same time, I kind of went from extreme to extreme. So I kind of was overdoing it, and then I was maybe perhaps overly cautious with it and not moving as much as maybe I should have been. So beyond the shoulder injury, with doing more leg workouts and walking a lot, I actually ended up with a bit of a hamstring strain as well. So I wasn't really able to work out in the way that I wanted to at all. And that was extremely frustrating for me. I was really upset about it initially. And I just stopped exercising. And then I posted on Instagram, if you follow me there, I posted I'm going to do 10,000 steps a day. Because let's shift the focus, let's try to think of something I can do. And so I did that, and I've been keeping up with that more or less since then. And it hasn't been perfect, it hasn't been every single day, but for the most part, I'm hitting over 10,000 steps a day. So that's been a good thing, to get some movement in and to be getting outside more and moving my body in that way has been nice. Walking, I think, is extremely underrated as an activity. But for me, it's not as exciting as jumping up on a pull-up bar or as, getting out some push-ups and really working on my strength, because that's really what I want to be doing. So I'm going to physio weekly. I have exercises that I'm doing. I'm gradually improving and gradually getting a greater range of motion. At this point, I can actually do a plank again. I can do push-ups from my knees. So I am gradually healing and getting better, but it takes time. It takes patience. And so that has been difficult to deal with, and I am still kind of wrestling with those feelings of impatience and frustration of just wanting to be fixed and healed and for it to just snap my fingers and to be back to normal functioning. So beyond my shoulder injury and my hamstring strain, I also got sick and my endometriosis flared up. All of those things together made me very sad, and I was resting a lot, I was sleeping a lot, which not a bad thing, but I was suffering physically and also mentally. I was getting sad and not wanting to do my usual meal prep and cooking, and I just felt like I didn't have the energy for it. I was tired. I just couldn't be fussed with it. And so I started to revert back into some old habits. And I've been vegan and eating a mostly whole food plant-based for 7 years. But prior to that, I lived 30 years of my life as someone who sometimes paid attention to their health and their diet and their movement, but for the most part just didn't focus on it. So those old habits are deeply ingrained and still things that can slip back into my life if I'm not paying attention. So I got back into some old patterns of just sort of eating mindlessly, eating when I wasn't hungry, and just eating for the sake of eating, just as comfort, just as something to do, overeating, eating more processed foods and takeout and things like this. And then from there, I felt more unwell physically and mentally. And it all is just kind of a cycle, right, that happens that we can get into sometimes. And sometimes you don't even realize it when you're in it, and it can take a minute to really realize what you're doing and be aware and sort of snap yourself out of it. And I was just feeling so unwell physically and mentally. And I realized, oh, hey, this started out as a shoulder injury and it's turned into this whole nother thing. This was turning into a whole nother problem and a whole nother situation. And I needed to do something about it. I needed to make some changes. So I asked myself the question, how can I take care of myself? And beyond that, sort of how would I take care of someone else in this situation, or how would I speak to or treat to someone else in this circumstance and in this situation? So I asked myself, what is one thing that I can change, that I can do for myself right now that will make me feel better and improve this situation. And the first thing before anything else was to breathe. Realized that I had gotten myself into a bit of a state. I had sort of failed Accountable April. Like, it started with a shoulder injury and turned into this whole nother thing. Breathe. It's okay. I'm a human, I make mistakes, and even as a health coach, even as a YouTuber, even as someone who gives advice and gives tools and strategies, I still have missteps and I still make mistakes and things sometimes go awry, and that's okay. And I have a lot of tools in the tool belt to turn things around and put myself into a better situation. And now that I'm aware that I sort of put myself into this slump after having an injury, I can use those tools to my benefit and get back to where I want to be. So after breathing was reminding myself to keep it kind. I think once we realize that we've sort of put ourselves into a difficult position, we've made missteps, we've taken actions that we didn't really want to, that don't really align with who we are or what we want to do, it's easy to get down on ourselves and be really upset about the situation. And I think it's important to feel your feelings, and it was important for me to consider how I was feeling and why. And beyond that, consider how I would treat someone else in this situation and talk to myself with kindness, recognize that the old habits that I got into again, it's because they're patterns of behavior that were so deeply ingrained in me that even now, 7 years later, occasionally missteps happen. We hit a speed bump, something happens, and it causes us to jostle, or we end up on a little detour, or a bit of a longer detour, depending on what's going on. And that is okay, that's life. We're human and stuff happens, and some things are within our control and some things are not, and we do our best. So this was a bit of a detour for me. It started as a little speed bump. Hey, you have a shoulder injury and you've got to slow down a little bit and do something differently. And then it sort of turned into taking the next action and the next action and the next action and taking a little detour. And now I'm back on track. And now I'm back to focusing on my health and prioritizing myself, my health, wellness, and well-being. So a few tips and a few things that I learned along the way, and things that I already knew but needed the reminder. So number one, eating a healthy diet does not need to be complicated. Keep it simple, especially if you're dealing with an injury or you're sick or there's some other life circumstance going on. Keep it simple. Eat foods that are comforting, that you enjoy. Make it nourishing so that it's going to be filling and satisfying, but keep it simple. It can be as easy as grabbing a bag of rice, a bag of frozen vegetables, a can of beans, a jar of salsa. Good to go. Mix it up. Buy some pre-chopped vegetables or pre-chopped greens. Add that to whatever you're making. As I've started to get back to where I want to be, I've been keeping it extremely simple. And if I do have a moment where I feel like batch cooking or I want to do something more extensive, I will. But otherwise, I've just been keeping it very, very simple and focusing on fueling my body for activity and for creativity and for fuel and nourishment for doing the things that I want to do. Another big reminder to me in this process was patience. Patience. Patience in a few different contexts. So with my injury, obviously, injuries don't heal within 24 hours for the most part. They usually don't heal within a week, depending on what you're dealing with. But it's going to take some time for my shoulder to be back to fully functioning. And without thinking too much about it, was being extremely impatient and had unreasonable expectations for the amount of time that it would take for me to heal and get back to normal functioning. This also goes for if you're on a health journey or a weight loss journey and you're starting to eat healthy foods and you expect that your health is going to improve in 24 hours or improve in a week. And maybe it will. Sometimes that can happen quite quickly. But usually it's going to take some more time and some more consistency and some more patience to get you to where you want to go with your health and or weight loss goals. The other aspect with patience here is with me actually reaching my goal of a chin-up or a pull-up by the end of 2023. It may or may not happen. This injury obviously has caused me to slow down in that area. So we shall see. When I get back to normal functioning, I will get back to training and trying to reach that goal. But that is also a goal that doesn't happen overnight and doesn't happen within a week of training. It's something that I need to be consistent with and work on and just chip away at and gradually get better. And I have been doing that, from January to March. I was doing that and seeing some improvements, small improvements, subtle improvements, but improvements, and noticing those and celebrating those as I go. And that's my plan for when I'm fully back in action and ready to attack those again. Another important reminder, always warm up. Always warm up. I am very mixed with this, and I go through phases of being excellent with warming up every single time, or just completely skipping it, or just not doing a very great job with it. And with me jumping up on the pull-up bar at home, I wouldn't warm up before doing that, which probably didn't help me out with me getting injured. So good reminder to everyone and reminder to myself, warm up, warm your body up a little bit, move a little bit first, do a simpler version of the motion or the activity that you're going to do before you jump into it, and just make sure you warm up properly so that you are prepped for exercise and ready to go, and you're minimizing that risk of injury. Another good reminder here for me is gratitude. And I always come back to this, and I find it really grounding and really helpful. It can be really easy to dwell on what you did wrong or what misstep you made and getting really upset about that and dwelling on it and focusing on the thing that is wrong. But if you're able to shift your focus into things that are going right, things that you can do, things that you are changing, things that have gone well, that can be really, really helpful. And I'm so grateful that this shoulder injury is, in the grand scheme of things, like a minor to moderate situation, and that it is improving slowly, subtly, gradually over time. And that I'm not dealing with some of my past health issues that I've dealt with. I don't have cancer. I am not dealing with chronic pain and chronic fatigue every single day. I did have an endometriosis flare-up, but overall, I usually don't. And it's usually fairly well managed. The other thing I'm grateful for is that I noticed that I was taking actions that weren't serving me. I was taking actions that weren't in line with who I am and what I want to do and who I want to be, and that I am making changes. And I noticed it pretty quickly. It was about 2 weeks of not being on a great trajectory and a great path for a variety of reasons. And so becoming aware of that and becoming mindful of that and being grateful that it was 2 weeks out of my life. So as much as I was frustrated with myself and it seemed awful and it feels weird to share my vulnerability, in the grand scheme of things, it's 2 weeks out of my life. It's really not a huge deal. So I can easily get back on track. I have the tools that I need. I have access to healthy foods. I have access to the gym. I have access to physiotherapy. And so I'm very grateful and very privileged to have those things available to me, and that I have a husband who cooks meals and who helps out at the house and who I can talk to about absolutely anything. And my son has been really helpful with this too, and really sweet with me with having an injury and with helping out as well. So I'm very grateful for all of that. Another important reminder is that things are not black and white, and to get out of the black and white, all or nothing kind of thinking. And again, this is an old pattern that just comes up every so often, and I need to be very mindful and aware of it so that I can distance myself from it and not be living in the all or nothing, because it's not a great place to be. So I started out super overdoing it, doing too much, being overly ambitious, and over-exercising, if I'm being honest. Then sort of gradually getting into the nothing, like no exercise, not paying attention to my nutrition, just not caring for myself, not sleeping well, just all the things were sort of a mess. So it's important to find ways to not live in the black and white. And if something goes wrong, whether it is out of your control or within your control, if something goes wrong, being able to acknowledge and manage it and react to it in such a way that it's not going to turn into, now I'm doing nothing and not taking care of myself at all and not working towards my goals at all. What can you do? What do you have control over? What is going to be helpful in this process? And I like to sort of gamify things a little bit. And so I sort of thought of it as, well, what's the adventure now? What am I going to do now? If I can't work on chin-ups and pull-ups and working on that form of strength at this point, what else do I want to do? What else am I interested in? I love movement, and so there must be something else that I can work on and have fun with and aspire to. So I'm going to continue with my 10,000 steps a day. And I'm also going to be working on my flexibility, because I think that is something that is often overlooked within sort of the fitness realm. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of work on some mobility and flexibility in a really gentle and kind way. I am going to physio, and I'm continuing to do exercises that she has recommended and getting her input about how I should or should not be moving my body, and getting some recommendations and professional help there, which is great. And I have been improving and gradually getting more range of motion, which is wonderful. If I zoom out from movement and I say, where else can I put my energy and my focus? Because that was really the plan for my energy and focus for the month, was really to work that and to really improve my strength in that area. So if I zoom out beyond even movement, but what else interests me? What else can I focus my attention on? What else can I be doing and sharing? So I've been doing more reading. I've been doing more writing. I'm considering maybe taking a course, maybe taking a personal training course or something of that nature. Another thing that happened is I also had technical difficulties with my laptop and my phone. And for some reason, sometimes when that happens, it just throws me completely off track, and I just get so overwhelmed, and I end up having such a difficult time filming, such a difficult time editing and putting out content. So that was another factor in me not releasing a video in the last little bit. So at the end of the day, I failed. I failed Accountable April. I failed what I set out to do. And that is completely okay. It's okay. It was an important reminder for me to not let one or two or even three things really throw me for a loop and have me making choices that I'm not thrilled with. And so thinking about future me and what I really want and what's really important to me, which at the end of the day is health and longevity and feeling really good and having true health and true wellness. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope that in sharing my story, maybe you could relate, or maybe it gives you some insight into someone else who has struggles and isn't perfect. So as much as this past month kind of sucked, I'm actually quite thankful for it because it was a very good reminder for me for all of the things that I just listed with the black and white thinking and the patience and the being consistent and starting slower and not doing all the things all at once and overdoing it. I was very well intended with doing more and thinking more was better, but sometimes less is more, and oftentimes starting out slower, starting out a little bit smaller, and working your way and building that consistency is much more effective than sort of an on again, off again approach. So I hope you found this video really helpful and that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you are watching straight through to the end. I really appreciate it. Please let me know how the past month has been for you. I heard from a few of you during Accountable April, but not a ton. So if you have any updates that you'd like to share, leave them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear how you did with your healthy habits last month and what your plans are for May, what your plans are for this month. I'm also planning on filming a Q&A video soon, so leave me any questions in the comments section as well. I might respond to you directly, but I may also just collect some questions for a future Q&A video. Remember to be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, and if something doesn't go quite right, that is okay. All is not lost. There is still hope. You can still turn things around. You can make different choices. You can switch things up. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect. Nobody is perfect. We are all human, just doing the best we can and figuring it out as we go. Here's to better days ahead. I hope you are having an amazing day, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye. This is my son's Squishmallow, and it's one of those ones that can flip. It's called a Flip-A-Mellow. Anyway, they're kind of fun and cute and sort of squishy and comforting, so I was just leaning on my little pal there, in case you were wondering.